Being a single mom and doing it all by yourself is brutal. Learn the brain and energy tools to get back to your center and overcome your challenges. Welcome to Single and Doing It All, the podcast to help you as a mom live a easier life and with less downward spiraling into fear, guilt, shame, and stop the ongoing arguments with your teenagers. I'm your host, Muriel Falous. And today we have a guest that is going to talk about energy. I think that's in my life, it's very present, and I really want everybody on earth, if I could, know the importance of energy and energy work. She's an expert in the matter. But before I introduce her, I want to remind you that the membership site is now launched. So it's only $18 a month, the launching price. So you want to take advantage of that, because with that membership, you have the opportunity to get coached by me in a group setting every month. How great is that? Okay, so now let's go to our guest. Drum rolls. Linsey Landry is an energy intuitive, heart seer, and heart shaman for healers and soul-centered women who are who are ready to heal and deepen their relationship with their partners, finances, business, and most importantly, with themselves. And I'm going to stop there because she's going to tell us the rest. Good morning, Lindsey. Happy to have you here. How are you?
Thank you so much for having me. I'm delighted to be here and to be having this conversation with you today. I feel like it's so important.
It is. It is really. I wish it would become mainstream, but maybe we can activate that or make it happen.
Totally.
So before we ask you questions about energy and tips, I would love to have you tell us how you ended up as an energy healer, as doing what you do today.
Yeah. So I'm really excited to talk to you and your community today because, you know, moms helping teenagers is, I guess I never really identified it before having this conversation with you before this interview, but yeah, it's kind of near and dear to my heart. And my journey started whenever I was about 13 years old, and it actually started with my own health struggles and also my relationship with my mom at that time, because um, you know as I was experiencing a deep level of emotions and feelings and um, different things that I didn't even know at the time what was actually happening, right? Looking back, I can see that I'm a healer, right? And I'm highly sensitive, but at the time I had no idea what I was experiencing. And my mom also, had no idea what I was experiencing. And so my journey started with that. And, it kind of took us to where visiting doctor after doctor in search to figure out like what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
Right. And also to find solutions to my health problems and to, the headaches and I was diagnosed with polycystic ovaries, and I had metabolic disorder and blood sugar issues and stomach issues and pain, all these things that really, even going to the doctor, there was no like actual medical diagnosis for them, right? And in a recent healing session that I did with the healer that I'm working with, I was I'm at a place in my own process right now where I'm sort of revisiting this, and I was looking at, even when we are we're having an experience for ourselves, and then maybe, our parents don't understand or the doctors don't understand, and just that disconnect and all of the misunderstanding around it. And I was really just feeling the level of pain, between our healing journeys. And also, I can feel the pain or the fear that my mom also had of like wanting to be the best mom that she could possibly be. And just, yeah, it's intense, And so that was really the beginning of my journey. And, it led me to become a dietitian, a mind body coach. I studied holistic healing. And then I guess it was around like 2008, 2009. That was whenever I found energy healing. And it was like a homecoming for me. The very first session that I had, it like totally made sense. My body lit up, my cells lit up. I felt like, just like for the first time in, I don't even know how long, right? It just felt right. And I felt like I wanted more. I wanted to understand it more. And that was really, the beginning of my journey.
And I'm curious because I know that we're always guided. How did you find energy? Was it random or how did it happen?
So I was actually, I don't remember if I was in my senior year of nutrition, dietetics, or if I was in my internship, but I was in school. And also I was studying holistic healing at the time too. And even when I worked as a dietitian, I considered myself a holistic dietitian. And, I always really believed in working the mind body connection, getting to the root cause of all of these things. And a mom called me, and she worked with one of the naturopaths that I worked for. And she was vegetarian, and she needed some help with creating recipes for her children because she wanted to make sure that they were getting enough protein. And so I drove an hour, like when we're first starting out, how passionate we are.
Anything. Yeah.
I was so excited, to help her, that I drove an hour she was a massage therapist. And so I drove an hour to go use her office space to do a session for her. And, during our session or whatever, I asked her what she did, and she told me she was a massage therapist and that she also worked with energy. And she said, it helped people with their relationships and their feelings. And I was like, I think I need that. And so I scheduled a session with her, and that was how that's how it came into my life.
Yeah.
So it really was one of those things that, like, it came to me. And
yes.
Yeah,
that's what I find is that it happens very often because we need to be put on our path. A question that came to me as you were talking, because I have a daughter who's also, she's psychic, she's medium, and she had so many physical symptoms that were weird, that we couldn't explain. For some time when she was like 8 or 9, the doctor wanted me to put her on anti-anxiety, or I refused, of course. But how can moms discover if their kids are some kind of healer or have more open channels that they absorb maybe everything? Let me back up. Do we say back up? Go back. What do you think was at the origin of all those weird symptoms or diagnoses that you were given? Was it something energetic?
I definitely feel it's energetic. For me, one of my superpowers is I'm an emotional healer, and I'm an energetic healer. So I feel energy, to the extent. So recently our dog passed away, but when she passed away, I realized how much of my dog's energy that I was feeling.
Yeah.
Even her discomfort and her, the way that animals, like a dog, will track us to check on us, and then she would be in pain, and then she's like wanting to please us.
Yeah.
And so I was feeling all of that, right? And I kind of knew that I was feeling it, but it wasn't until, she crossed over that it was like so clear, because then that wasn't there anymore.
Yes.
So, where I am today now, I can see that even as a child, I was, feeling energy on a super intense level. And I think, especially for children that are like old souls, it's like we know we can see or feel things, and maybe part of us understands, but then, the humanness of it, like, we don't understand, or, um, maybe we create protections to
Yeah.
manage it, to manage our energy,
Yeah,
but then
to make
also like
sure.
to tend or take care of, the people around us, so that they're comfortable or safe. Um,
Definitely.
so I don't remember exactly what your question was
That's
there.
okay.
So
We
just
went
bring
where
me
we were
back if I
supposed
didn't answer it.
we went where we were supposed to go, because
Okay.
actually I realized I'm doing Reiki too. So I work with energy, not to an extent like that, like you're doing. It's not the major part of my business, but I do Reiki. And when you talk about feeling other people, absorbing other people, I remember when I was younger that sometimes I would be in a very great mood, and then I go to work with a friend and he was stressed, and 10 minutes later I felt the stress in my body, and I never knew that I was absorbing that. And of course, when you're absorbing everything, you have symptoms. That's what I see with my oldest. If we sit together in the car and one of us isn't feeling great, oh my God, disaster,
Mm-hmm.
because we take on it right away. So I think that, and tell me if you see that with your clients, what I noticed with me and with people like us who absorb or who can feel other people's energy, because that's why I can be coaching at the level that I coach, I feel them. We don't realize that sometimes we feel them before we feel us. We don't know that we're feeling
Mm-hmm.
them. We don't know what it feels to feel us. It took me so long to be able to put a boundary, to close my energetic field, and to know, okay, oh, that's how it feels to be me. Do you see that
Mm-hmm.
with you and with patients too?
Yes, a lot of the things that I work with my clients on, is actually helping them come back to themselves, to, um, I see when we are super sensitive, it's shadow, and it's also a superpower. And so, when we're in the shadow of it, it causes us pain, and it causes us like a level of disconnect. And the more we can learn to understand that part of ourselves, and have so much compassion with it, because, as I go deeper into these layers of myself, even the pain of it, right? What I'm seeing is, how much compassion, and like also this pain, or this wounding of like feeling everyone else, like, how connected it actually allows me to be. And so, yeah, I think it's really tender, and when you were mentioning about the car ride, that was kind of bringing me to, like, I remember, a lot of the pain that I used to have. My grandparents lived about 2 hours away from me, and my parents were divorced. My mom was remarried, but every other weekend my grandmother would come get me, so we'd be in the car. And I remember, being in the car and like just feeling so much discomfort, in my body, and not understanding. And then also, a lot of my health issues flared up whenever I was in about seventh, eighth grade. And I was in school from kindergarten to eighth grade at one school. And then I was moving to a new school, right? And so it's like there was a level of safety in that, because sometimes when we're in an environment that feels familiar and safe, like we can almost identify ourselves, or we know our role, or we know who we
Yeah.
are in that environment, right? And then it's like when we leave that safety net or that nest, and we go to maybe like with a new group of people, or I don't know,
Y-
it's sort of like a new level or a new
Yeah, it's
layer is
terrible.
revealed, right? And I remember, in high school, literally, I would go to school and then come home, and I would like shower, work out, and go to bed. Like I would lay in bed because I was like depressed, and I thought it was me. I was like, God, I just,
Yeah.
what's wrong with me? Right. Again, like going back to this, what's wrong with me? And really it was that I was feeling so much, right? It's just like so much stuff that um, wasn't even my energy.
Well, it's a perfect segue in my question. Um, can you tell us if you feel that energy, I call it energy hygiene, how important is it? Because when you see stories like that, how important is it to attend to your energy on a regular basis?
Oh, I think it's so important. One of the first practices, I mean, of course, like exercise, you know, eating, I think that that is always like the foundation. It can give us a sense of just sort of like grounding. I always felt like those things just kind of can bring an awareness, like help us to start creating some awareness. In the physical, like even noticing how our body feels, um but one of the things that was really beneficial for me when I started to work with my own energy was like every day waking up and just checking in, like, okay, how am I feeling right when I wake up? And then also checking in, like, okay, is this my energy? So I would like ask that as soon as I'm waking up, and kind of do like a morning practice, even if it's, 5-10 minutes, just to tune in to kind of see like, okay, where am I? And then I started to do that with every single meal. So, my roots are in the nutrition. So it gave me sort of like this checkpoint. I was already aware of my meal settings and water and those kinds of things, so
Yeah.
I would use that as a grounding point to like kind of check in with myself. Like, so when I'm sitting down to eat, I would check in, like, okay, how am I feeling in my body? How am I feeling emotionally? Is this mine, or is this something else? And
How can
you
you
know
know in the moment, if you were trying to explain to somebody how to know if it's yours or someone else, what's the difference?
so for me, okay, are we open to doing an exercise?
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's exciting.
Yeah, I rather let them have an experience than trying
Yes.
to talk about it.
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so our listeners can just take a few deep breaths. And just using your name as well, before we even do that, just kind of noticing how you feel in your body just with your breath. So maybe feeling your feet on the ground. You can notice how your head feels, your heart. your belly. Even your breath, how deep it's moving or the pace it's moving at. And then I want you to repeat your name to yourself 3 times. And as you are saying your name, really just allow yourself to feel it in your body. And then just kind of checking in again and noticing how that feels. So you can notice, your mind, your heart, your belly, your breath. Okay, and then I just want to do 2 more, just to kind of give you a few more references. So the next thing that I want to just kind of give you the opportunity to feel into is something that you know is absolutely true for you. So this could be something simple like, my hair is brown. I absolutely know that I love my child. But something that you know with all of your heart that's true. And so just kind of think of this, say it to yourself. And as you do that, just kind of feel into your body again, noticing your heart, your belly, your breath. Beautiful. And then the last one that we're going to do is I invite you to pick something that you know is not true. So something that you absolutely know is not true for you. A lie. And just kind of hold that in your awareness. And then do the same thing, just kind of feeling it in your body. So noticing your mind, your heart, and your belly, and how that feels. Good. And so then you can just bring in some golden energy or white light to just clear that out, to reset. And
I
then
loved it.
whenever you're ready, can come back.
I loved it. I sometimes I talk about knowing the no and the yes in your body. That's the same kind of feeling, and it's powerful because it's basic, but it can guide you even in making decisions. Thank you for this exercise. So
Yeah.
For moms, you can even use that. I use that sometimes to know what to do with one of my kids, because as a person in a society, you can be taught by society around you to do something in a certain situation, but sometimes it's not the key, it's not the solution for your specific situation, and you have a spiritual guidance that could tell you something different. So I think it's crucial to know, because that way you go toward the highest good in a situation versus what has been conditioned onto you.
Totally. And what I want to add there too, like for moms, you know, moms are just as compassionate as their children. And like, even if you're a mom, like you could be feeling just as intensely as your child, right? And so what can happen is sort of like I was explaining with the dog. So like if the child is feeling something and then the mom is feeling the child's pain and like then wanting to do something to help the child, the energy can like sort of ping pong back and forth, and it doesn't actually have a place to go. It can't move through. And so one of the best ways to like actually support, and this could be your child, your partner, your clients, um, anyone, right? But when you notice, like maybe you are feeling an energy that's not yours, so whether it's your child, your partners, your coworkers, whatever, one of the best ways to support that is just going into your experience, going into what you're actually feeling. So if it's scary for you to see them hurting and to not help them, like let yourself feel the fear. Or if your heart is breaking for them because you see them struggling and in pain, then like allow yourself to be in your own heartbreak or grief. And I know this sounds probably challenging, but it really is the way to let the energy move through. And the more we can do this, then we can get that intuitive guidance of like, because then once our emotions move, right, then we'll get the guidance of what we actually need to do. And it's going to be coming from a much higher place.
So I want to make sure I understand what you're saying. So let's say you're with your kid and they're depressed.
Mm-hmm.
And you feel that. Instead of trying to resist that, like let yourself feel and flow the emotion out of you. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. So it's witnessing them, loving them, right? But also letting yourself have your own experience of how you're feeling about their situation.
Okay. Because what I noticed with me in the past, and I had to work on that, let's say when someone, and especially my kids, because we're so bonded, felt an emotion that was intensely negative, I right away switched into my fixer mode. And I was trying to fix it because, first of all, I could feel it and I could see them struggling. And as a mom, I wanted to stop the pain. And I noticed it wasn't the right solution. I noticed that I had to be able to try to put a shield and not feel what they're feeling and get in me neutrally and let them feel what they're feeling because there is a purpose to it. And sometimes be just like a sounding board without involving my own feelings. And that made things so much easier for them and for me. So is that what you're talking about, like being in you and let yourself feel your emotions instead of feeling theirs?
Yes.
Okay.
And, we can still have compassion for them and love them. And, it's definitely a practice. So, don't try to do it perfectly if you're playing with this for the first time.
Yes.
It's going to be a little messy.
It can be automatic because for me, it was automatic. I feel for everybody. So, okay, I'm going to feel for you and I'm going to solve your problem. But I had to learn, no, that's not what you do. So how can one, let's say a mom wants to make sure that she's interacting with her teenagers from herself instead of them mixed with her. What can she do to make sure she's more often in herself than somewhere else?
I feel like self-care, self-care is probably the number one thing, because when we are busy, working, tending our family, creating a safe space, right, for our family. We're so in the energy of, you know, just going through the motions,
Oh,
keeping everything organized, right, that we can get lost in that,
yes.
right? So then we're lost in the um, daily routine, or just the lifestyle. And when we can start creating that space for, even if it's soaking in the tub or going sit outside, start with 10 minutes. Just listen to the birds, drink your coffee outside, but creating the space for self-care, for connection. Maybe it's meditation, or, going for a walk. um, I think working out is great, but I would say, like, there's a way that we can work out and like do it in a way that's like just going through the the routine of it. And I think if we can do it in a way where we're being really present with ourselves,
Yeah.
and we set the intention to be connected and use it as a sacred space and a sacred time, um, it can serve as that. And, even doing the dishes or laundry, like, you can put on music and let it be a sacred time.
Yes.
I've gotten like ideas, and I process a lot of energy doing those kinds of things when I just set the intention. I think intentions can be really powerful,
Yes.
um,
Yeah, it moves
especially
energy.
when we are, yeah, like when we're going, we have to do these things, but we can decide to make it sacred. And whenever 2010, I volunteered at a yoga wellness center, Kripalu, and I lived there for 4 months. And the whole point was karma yoga. And so we volunteered, and so we all had different jobs. Mine was housekeeping. And so the point was selfless service and yoga in action. So, like, using the service of, for me, it was housekeeping, using that as my yoga practice, as my self-awareness practice. And I think we can use anything as
Yeah.
that if we set the intention to. So time doesn't need to be an issue.
That's yeah, and that's perfect for single moms. Uh, Before we part, I want to ask you the question I ask everyone, and it is about self-love. And what you talked about fits in that category. What is your definition of self-love?
Hmm. Hmm. So what's coming to me, really seeing things through the eyes of my heart,
Yeah.
And I think we can do self-love through our mind. And when we can find that place from our heart, and really like seeing things through the eyes of our heart, um, yeah, there's just so much compassion and grace and permission and spaciousness.
That is such a beautiful thing to end on. Uh, where can people find you if they want to see what you're doing or contact you?
My website is my name, Linsey, Lynsey, Landry, Landry.com. And I also have a Facebook community that's free. It's Soul Inspired Success.
And I'll put a link in the
So,
description of the episode. I want to
yeah.
thank you for being here today with us and talking about energy. That was a beautiful exercise that you had us go through. And thank you again for coming to the show. I was really happy to have
Thank
you.
you so much for having me.
And for our audience, I hope that you use this exercise a lot, because it can really become handy when you're confused and you don't know what to do, to go to the highest vibration into your next step.
Mhm.
So until we see each other again, go and love yourself and be true to who you really are in your heart. Bye.